Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Windows 10, a guide to secure mobility in the enterprise, with Chuck Brown and Jimmy Tsang. Chuck Brown is a longtime IBM Master 360 employee coming in from large financial organizations in 2001. His responsibilities have included standing up our first cloud-based laptop and desktop management system and extending that into the current evolution of IBM Master 360. Jimmy Tsang has more than a decade of experience in enterprise software and over 6 years of experience in mobile technology, joining IBM Master 360 in 2012. He is responsible for positioning, messaging, and go-to-market launches of the IBM Master 360 product. My name is Kayla Heineman, and I'll be your moderator today. Real quick, just a few housekeeping items before we begin. If you've joined a webinar with us in the past, then you might notice that we have a new look. We are using the On24 webinar platform to enhance your webinar experience. The webinar console is completely customizable, so you can enlarge the slides and minimize the speaker bios and Q&A box. So we hope you take advantage and play around with your console. Today's webinar is expected to last about 60 minutes and is in listen-only mode. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so if you have a question you'd like answered, please be sure to submit it through the Q&A box located on the right-hand side of your screen. Feel free to minimize this box if you'd like. And finally, we are recording today's session, and we'll make the link to the recording and slides available by email. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and hand it off to Jimmy to kick it off with today's agenda. Jimmy?
Great. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Happy New Year. Right? A great time to really start talking about all the great new things with Windows 10. We actually had a webinar last year in May before Windows 10 came out. So I think it's a great time to revisit and really talk about our support for Windows 10 and how exciting that is. So the agenda for today is, we're going to go over the Windows overview, basically the whole ecosystem and what the trends are with that ecosystem. So Windows 10 highlights and why you should be looking to upgrade with Windows 10. Our support for Windows 10 with Master 360. And Chuck's going to go through a demo of our portal, and you can see our support for Windows 10 in that. And then at the very end, we're going to have about several minutes for Q&A. So please start asking questions in the Q&A window. So we're going to start off being interactive, right? And if you've been part of these in the past, we'd love to talk to our audience. So the first poll question we actually have is, what operating system is installed on most of your laptops and desktops today? The options are Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7, XP,
which is still out there,
and then Mac OS 10. And then, of course, other, right? We have Linux and other things. But on your laptops and desktops, what do you have today? And for those of you that may have attended, previous sessions, we actually asked the same question because we're really interested to see how the audience, how our, customers and the ones that are interested, with IBM are migrating, right? So we like to see the transition over time. So please, make your choice. And then we'll show you your poll results, and then show you the results from last year.
Right, and as Jimmy was saying, the transition over time, even though it's only been about 6-7 months, we do think that there is going to be a little bit of movement, and we're just trying to track it overall to see what that movement would be. We see the numbers that were just popped up here, and it could actually pop down.
Yep, this is actually from May 2015. So you can see the huge spike with Windows 7, right? Where 85% of the audience said that's what they have installed on most of their laptops and desktops today. So in Windows 8, for example, right, that was only 9%, right? So that was fairly small relative. So we'd like to see, from today's results, whether Windows 10 has really made an impact with this audience. So again, just keeping in mind what this looks like from May 2015. And here are the poll results from today, right? From this session. So you see 20%, almost 20% of this audience is already on Windows 10, right? Again, that's a pretty big number. That's a bigger number than actually some of the numbers we'll show you later with obviously the general audience. actually with sort of the general market for Windows 10. So that's great. That means our enterprise customers, they're basically migrating. They're starting to migrate, and even though in the past I think they've been mostly conservative, right? In terms
absolutely.
of slowing down and making sure everything works.
Well, this is really interesting, Jimmy, because even though it's almost a direct correlation between the increase in Windows 10 and the decrease in Windows 7. Now, granted, we have to assume it's not all the same people, but the numbers seem to match up a bit. We went from 0 to 19.6 in Windows 10 and went from 85% down to 64 in Windows 7.
Right.
So it looks like the enterprises that were at Windows 7 previously, a lot of the early adopters are really, pulling the trigger on it.
Yeah. And we obviously know this is a smaller, sample size than the, general audience, but it's great to see this, and thank you for participating. So let's again, level set, talk about the market, and see where we are today with basically the whole Microsoft operating system ecosystem, right? So at the very top, you see most of the sort of, legacy desktop, laptop operating systems with, XP, Vista, and that's still around. Windows 7 and 8.1, right? So that's what we had up until last year. Then we also had the sort of the mobile side of the Windows business, which is Windows Phone 7, Windows Phone 8, as well as Windows Phone 8.1.
Right.
And obviously now what we're seeing is a convergence, right? A convergence down to Windows 10. It's not officially converged yet, right? It's not. There's not one operating system that rules them all, but it's getting close.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of convergence. You're coming out of Redmond, there is a strategic mindset in having a unified UI UX experience.
Right.
And that's where you're going to see this convergence, and along with the management. And the screen just showed up. It's with a little triangle at the back. You are seeing Microsoft taking a big jump into the pool of API management, and having a single set of APIs across all your devices itself.
Right. And we'll be talking a lot about that later on in the session. Yeah. Right? So, this is the sort of Windows 10's vision, right? The Windows 10's vision of, one product family, one platform, one store, right? One basic app store for, the apps, for music, for everything. So this convergence is the vision of Windows, of basically Microsoft, right? It's not quite there today.
It's getting there, though.
It's getting very close. Obviously, with all these APIs that they have for, mobile device management, that's a big step for us. And for the user standpoint, it's really getting there as well with Windows 10 for desktops and laptops and Windows 10 mobile.
Yeah, just another little tidbit here. We do have a Windows 10 mobile, but Microsoft is trying to push out with a Windows Phone. Right. Using the Windows 10 full operating system, and that'll give you that convergence and continuum across all your devices itself.
Right.
So we'll see what happens on that.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the intent. That's where they're headed. Okay, so the current state of affairs. So going back to last year, just to again level set, Windows 10 generally was available by July 29th of last year, right? It was a free upgrade for a majority of devices, except for really the enterprise.
The enterprise,
right?
Yeah, and it still is.
Yeah, exactly. For consumers, I upgraded, at home. But for enterprise users, obviously they have their licensing agreements that they have to work through. And really, in the first 24 hours of the release of Windows 10, there were 14 million installs, right? And at its peak, it was being installed at a rate of 1,500 devices per second.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty amazing. But what we're seeing is also the adoption is accelerating, right? It's accelerating maybe because of the holiday season. More people were migrating and upgrading their devices.
And they probably had time on their hands to be able to do it, even though the upgrade doesn't take that much time. If they have a day off or something like that during the holiday season, they'll upgrade it.
Right. And one of the data points we saw is after Black Friday, there were 40% of the new, basically 40% of the Win 10 devices came after Black Friday. So Black Friday for us in the United States is basically the end of November.
Yeah, day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly.
Typical
So
shopping time.
that was very quick. And Microsoft expects 1 billion devices to be running, Windows 10 in 3 years. So that's a huge number, one that they're tracking well to. And you can see in this graph below, right? You can see sort of it started off really quickly, obviously with 14 million getting on board, in July, and then in October 110 million, and then basically in January, they posted a 200 million, milestone.
Yeah, and we always take that with a grain of salt, but we're seeing the shift going up and to the right. So it is an increase in Windows 10 installations and a decrease in all others.
Right. And then we're also seeing, the migration, right? These are, stats available from StatCounter. So they're actually in the first few weeks of the availability of Windows 10, we're seeing in the orange bar a lot more Windows 8 users migrating, right? And then the blue bar is Windows 7. So we're seeing definitely more of the attrition or migration of Windows 8 users than Windows 7 users.
Yeah, that's almost to be that is really a noticeable item. Because I don't think Windows 8.1 or Windows 8 was relatively accepted overall, just like Vista was not accepted. People jumped off the boat very quickly when the new operating system was available.
So that's not surprising, right? So the ones that were least happy with Windows 8 jumped off. But what we're seeing is, after the first few weeks, basically after the first month, that more Windows 7 users are now migrating.
Right, and the first poll questions actually said that. I mean, if you take a look at that, yeah.
Exactly. And those are the ones probably with, Windows 7 users were the highest, as far as the highest market share was Windows 7 at that point. So if you take a look at the market share in general, looking back at, April 2015 to basically December 2015, quite a shift, and we saw that with the poll results as well. So if you look at just in general, the Windows operating system dominates, right? It has 91% of the total market share of operating systems out there. That includes, OS 10, that includes Linux and others, right?
Yeah.
The current Windows 10 market share today is almost 10%. Okay, so it's almost double digits as of December 2015. It's pretty amazing. And, we're seeing a 10% growth rate month to month and a 20% market share by 2016 in Q3 of 2016. So pretty amazing. As we, it's a little different, right, from the poll results that we saw earlier where Windows 7 took a big step back. And really, here we're seeing Windows 7 being almost the same, 58% and 56%. So looks like, in the general public, Windows 7 is still, dominant. But what we're seeing is Windows 8 as well as XP is basically losing more of their users. And we know with Windows XP, it's all, end of life of support.
It's been end of life for some time, as a matter of fact.
Exactly. And so that's where it's coming most out of. So that's where, Windows 10 is getting most of their users from, we believe.
But we also see, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
And that could be part of the delay for people actually migrating from XP to something else.
Right.
And, sooner or later that is going to come to fruition that the XP will be down to approximately 0. It may never be totally 0. Mm-hmm. And the same with 8. Right. But it is interesting, though, with the Windows 7, which is still supported, how much people are jumping or migrating.
Okay, great. So all right. Chuck's going to take us on.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks, Jimmy. The slide here is actually showing a number of things that we actually talked about a little bit earlier. And it's really the continuum and the convergence of the operating systems regardless of the device itself. And you have a similarity between Cupertino and Redmond. OS X, iOS 9, and even Watch OS 2 is converging the same way, having the same type of APIs that are able to manage and configure and manipulate in a positive fashion, the operating system, and now Microsoft is doing the same thing.
Right.
We're seeing, from these two vendors, a same type of thought pattern overall. So you have really, what I think Microsoft is trying to do is have one code base reach all their devices. And we're talking a lot about Windows 10. And so we're looking at the PCs, laptops, desktops, smartphones. There's also Internet of Things.
Right.
And PlayStation.
Or Xbox.
Or Xbox, I'm sorry, Xbox.
Right.
So you have the same thing, and you're going to be able to manage all these devices. Not that we're going to go in and manage a lot of Xboxes,
right.
or maybe you are or not, but it's really the extension of what their thought pattern is to have the current base and then move on to the next evolution in Internet of Things.
Right. Because
a lot of these APIs actually fit the same way when you're running Internet of Things for Windows 10.
Right.
This slide basically comes from Gartner, and this is a little bit of an older slide. It came out in late 2014 or mid-2014, and it showed 3 waves of what was happening in the industry itself with device management and configuration. And we felt we were in wave 1 when this first came out, and there's a little "you are here," and we made that probably a few months ago. I feel since Microsoft has actually pushed out a little bit farther, we may have actually jumped that cavern and started on the lower level of wave 2, beginning to have converged tools and separate processes. I think our overall scheme is to get to wave 3, where we have true convergence of workflows and processes in one window overall, and this is something that we're using. But in the overall scheme of life, I think organizations like IBM and others are jumping that cavern and moving a little bit quicker. And it's not being a 5 to 7 year time horizon. It's going to be more of a 2 to 3 year time horizon for wave 2 itself. And then I think the snowball is going to be rolling downhill, and we'll jump over into wave 3 even quicker.
Right. And I think we feel that we're probably on wave 2 today. But
we do.
This is from 2014, but okay.
Now, I mentioned a few things here, and this link should be available to everybody. And this is the API features that are available for Windows 10. Interestingly enough, these API features go across all their devices. Even on the top line itself, you have the 4 check marks. And it goes from phone, laptop, and Internet of Things. So you're seeing a consistency coming out of Redmond that almost a one-size-fits-all for a management type of capability, which makes it good for us because we have some experience and exposure managing older Windows operating systems that did not have the API, and the Windows phone sets that did have the API sets with API included at that point. But you don't have to go back. But just on that link itself, feel free to browse that, and you'll be able to really compare and contrast what Microsoft is doing versus maybe another operating system provider. 7 reasons to open up to Windows 10, moving from 7 to 10. It's the convergence, which we actually talked about a little bit, and that we're seeing in your poll questions. Similar API sets and policies. The biggest thing that I see right now is policy sets. Prior to Windows 10 on the laptop itself, we knew you could do policies, you could do GPO, you had to have the infrastructure in place with servers and stuff like that. You'd be able to push down your password information, etc. But now you're able to do policies like you're able to do policies on iOS and Android and Windows Phone. You're able to set these passwords, you're able to set up restrictions, etc. That is big in my mind.
Right.
So we also see build once, use anywhere type of situation with a universal application that Microsoft is allowing. For example, we're able to use our Windows Phone container that we from Windows Phone 8.1 that we were rebuilding for Windows 10 or Windows 10 Mobile. We'll be able to use that same type of container on a Windows 10 tablet laptop after we go through the process of the conversion itself.
Yeah.
So this is good for developers overall.
Yeah, it makes it more efficient, and your legacy apps, well, I mean, you can't transfer those, but once you start developing apps, you can use those going forward. So it's great.
Right. Microsoft is really pushing forward and saying, really pushing the greater data and program protection and security situation. And the fourth and fifth bullet point with data and program security and enlightened applications really go hand in hand, where you're able to identify different applications that allow you to access data on the device itself, and then really categorize that data as corporate data versus personal data. And maybe the application cannot open personal data or cannot open corporate data and save it that way. So now your device is becoming totally, it's a real big container more than anything else. They're focusing in on the data as opposed to focusing in on they're focusing in on the forest rather than the trees. Right. On the corporate data itself. It's not keeping your device totally. It's a little bit of a shift.
Lockdown.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shift keeping your device. Security is big on the device, but that's not the only point. It's the data on the device that everybody's worried about, and that's where the big push is right now on security.
Yeah, so you basically have more granular control of data than ever before. Great.
Exactly, and then. It goes without saying a consistent workflow over all the different devices. Microsoft is also dropping support for Internet Explorer. They're coming out with the new Spartan Edge browser that is included in Win 10. Seems to be a little quicker, et cetera, and they've made some security updates on that device to make browsing the Internet and using the Internet even that much more secure.
And basically, Spartan was the code name, right?
Spartan was the code name. Now it is called Edge.
The public name they have today.
Correct. Just want to go through a little bit on the Win 10 policies themselves. You see right here, and this is within MAS 360, and we wanted to actually go through a little bit of this in the demo, but provide you this information in the presentation itself. You're seeing the different policies, for security and restrictions and VPN and being able to configure ActiveSync, things that we couldn't do before on a tablet, laptop, etc.
Right.
Now we can. And the nice thing about this, from our point of view, is over on the right-hand side, there's blue boxes. I hope you can see them on your screens. Those boxes are basically saying Win Phone or a Windows 10 with a little plus sign. So those are the APIs and the policy sets that you can create that you can build that go across these different devices, and your administrator doesn't have to go out and open up a book and try and figure out which one is which. Everything is really sitting right there that they're able to say, oh, I want to turn off Cortana on a phone, and I want to allow it on a tablet, et cetera, or vice versa, or have a similarity across the board. They just don't have to go paging through everything and figure out which is which.
And what's exciting about this is it applies to, again, mobile as well as to desktops and laptops going forward with Windows 10. And, if you're, used MAS 360 in the past, our policies for laptops in the past were, quite sparse. Right?
Well, there basically wasn't any.
Yeah, there wasn't any, right? And here you can see, that granularity, that, all that robustness in terms of what we can do now to basically control and manage these laptops and desktops going forward.
Right.
It's very exciting.
It is. It's a whole new day.
Yeah.
And once again, just diving down a little bit more into device restrictions, giving the itemized listing. And you can read that for yourself. But it's real easy to create these policies. With the little checkbox here, you can just check it or uncheck it and create the policies. And, one policy doesn't have to fit all your devices. You can create multiple policies and deliver those out. Network restrictions, same. And we'll go through this a little bit, showing in the live demo. Now, one of the interesting parts here is the certificate situations. Obviously, that's always a big concern within enterprises itself. We do have an ability to configure trusted certificates today in Mass 360, and we're going to continue to expand certificate distribution and installation on all these devices. Very similar to what we're doing on iOS and Android. Obviously, there's some small differences, but the overall scheme is the same way. And you'll have that at your fingertips and be able to put out or configure and identify certificates on these devices, making the device even that more secure. Advanced sync settings. If you didn't have, this sounds like, what is this? It's pretty interesting that ever since we really were in the business, as time progressed, on the laptop side, or after MDM really came to the forefront, and organizations were saying, I can configure and distribute a policy for setting up ActiveSync. The next question was, geez, if I can do it on my phone, how come I can't do it on my laptop?
Right.
And we really never had a good answer to that outside of there wasn't an API to do it. I mean, we could jump through a lot of hoops and make it happen based on our old legacy support system. But now you're able to go out and just type this in and create the policy and distribute out. Okay, now we'll just go real quickly into the actions. There are a couple of actions, or a few actions inside the device itself that are built around the API set, one of which is location. We had this on an older, our older agent-based offering itself where you could do location on laptops using different, it was different code that we had built up within IBM itself.
Yeah, it was proprietary.
It's proprietary more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That's still going to be available for your older stuff, but on Win 10 it's going to be built in. So we see this, or I see this as an interesting turnaround where as time progresses, you may be able to have location-based policy. Very similar to what we do on iOS and Android. As their location, as the Microsoft location information actually blossoms,
right.
And you're creating policy, you may be able to say, oh, I want to turn off my camera on my Surface Pro 3 when I get onto a naval air base, so I don't take pictures of tail numbers on the jets. Another thing, we have selective wipe and wipe. Previously, we only had a full disk or a full wipe of the disk itself, and that was once again done through proprietary code, and it took a long time, etc. Now, with the API set, Microsoft has made some changes that you're able to do a selective wipe and remove corporate data and information associated with that corporate data, and then secondarily, a wipe of the device. You're breaking the keys that allow you to access data on the device. So you're doing a full wipe of that device, and it's done very quickly, as opposed to doing the older, laptop wipe where you would erase and then overwrite with ones and zeros, free up the free space, etc. Okay. Once again, very quick. It's going to happen a lot faster, and this is going to continue. Enterprise data protection, as Microsoft is putting it. I don't want to read everything that's in there, but it's really encrypting the data and identifying that data as corporate versus personal. This is a big differentiation now that Microsoft is going to be pushing, and hopefully they continue to push this. I think this is a little bit of a game changer coming back into the Microsoft side on the operating system itself. You're able to, as I mentioned, create privileged or enlightened applications where you can only look at specific data that can be accessed, and you're going to block applications from either not getting that data or the data cannot get to that application. So there wouldn't be any type of sharing, et cetera. So you're really making the device the big container. All right? And a couple other additional security options. Obviously, BitLocker is still there for full disk encryption. There are a few new features within BitLocker itself, and there's a link out there to give you some information on what's happening with it. And then Windows Defender, I think Microsoft likes their idea of using Windows Defender for AV, antivirus, anti-spyware, et cetera, anti-malware. Is it good enough? It may be. Is Semantic a little bit better? It may be, but that's really, that's really up to you to decide at that point. I think they're providing some options out there. And then backup and recovery going out to OneDrive, built right in. So that's going to be interesting to see how people actually use that in the next year or so, as opposed to going to third-party applications for backup and recovery.
Right. So, but they made it more seamless than ever before.
Very much.
Right.
It just backs up by itself.
Right.
Now, we do have an assigned kiosk. This is different. Microsoft has made a change in their directions on what they call assigned access or kiosk mode. Previously, it worked on Windows Phone 8.1 only. And now with Windows 10, it only works on the tablets. Tablets and laptops. It doesn't go with the phones anymore. So there is a bit of a difference, and it actually makes some sense. If you're going to do a kiosk, you want to have some type of a tablet that you can mount inside, say, a store, and somebody can page through and look at their, information and ordering information inside that store itself, as opposed to doing it on a phone. It's just easier user experience overall. So you're able to lock this tablet down. Only allow it to have the individual to have access to certain applications or websites, etc. And this is going to be an interesting offering, and in competition to other tablets with kiosk mode.
Yeah, it makes sense that it looks like Microsoft evaluated their use cases and decided that really the tablets and desktops and laptops are the way to go in terms of providing this access.
Exactly. The Edge browser, I don't want to spend a lot of time with it because it is included within Windows 10 itself, but it is a little bit better than what they ended up with at the end for Internet Explorer. See, it operates inside a sandbox itself, and it also deactivates extensions such as ActiveX and Visual Basic. So they're looking at this for speed in mind and security in mind. And it's part of the operating system itself. Okay.
So next, we're going to talk about patching. So let's see.
All right. On security patching, Microsoft is making sure that everybody gets their patches regardless. Unless you're using an enterprise version of the operating system, these patches will be distributed out to you, and your device will be rebooted, and the patch will be put in. I think they're getting tired of keeping up all the security patches overall and being hammered for having an operating system that is hacked a lot or tried to be hacked.
Does the user still need to agree to install the patch? Or
not at all. Not on the enterprise, but on the non-enterprise editions.
Right.
As you install, you're agreeing to it, and you just get it.
Okay.
There are a couple different things. They have different patching bundles, etc. They want to now bundle multiple individual line item patches into one bundle. And outside of the enterprise, on Windows 10 Pro and even Home, you're not really given a lot of opportunity to test an individual patch before distributing it out. Mm-hmm. But I think, once again, the guys in Redmond are, trying to protect the individual and small business areas. There are two rings or two levels of getting new OS upgrades, and I just got one on my Windows 10 Surface Pro 3 this morning.
Sounds like you're the fast ring.
I am. It's a fast and a slow ring.
Right.
I'm using the Windows 10 Insider Edition or Preview Edition, so I am on the fast ring, trying to see what they have immediately and break it. See if it breaks the machine, see if it breaks any of our stuff right away. But individuals can actually sign up and say, I want it early, or I want to wait a little bit of time.
Right.
You don't have an opportunity not to take it. You have an opportunity to delay the distribution and installation of that upgrade over a period of time. I think it's 60 days or something like that.
Okay.
And that may change as more and more organizations actually migrate over to Windows 10. Universal applications. Here's a little bit of a difference, a change here. On the everything from, you're starting on Windows 95 all the way up through Windows 7 itself. Packages were always used or created as a Win32 bundle, like MSI, exe, setup.exe, that type of situation. There's a bit of a change now. Microsoft is pushing for the touch first type of application and they're calling it APPX. And that's okay. So now you have multiple bundles. You have multiple installation types on these devices. It's still supporting a Win32 application installation and the newer store application, the APPX application. And this is what we're actually able to distribute out, and we're going to help you manage these type of applications overall. The store applications, there is a business store out there now for Microsoft applications, and that was pointed to in one of the earlier slides with the continuum. They'll have one store where all the applications can be selected and downloaded, and if they're pay-for applications, they're pay-for applications. Those applications will be the newer APPX, and they seem to be building up their total library of applications overall. Okay? Now, when we just mentioned a little bit about Win32 applications, there still is third-party software distribution that's out there. Google and Adobe, everybody knows about Adobe and Java having updates almost on a daily basis. Adobe Reader and Java, they're always coming out with new updates. There still is a need for patching of these third-party applications. Right. Some of the touch-first applications like Adobe Reader Touch, they do update automatically through the Business Store, but you can still have the standard Adobe Reader installed on your Win 10 device also. Interestingly enough, they both have different versions. They both say Adobe Reader. They both have different version names, and that's something that we're actually able to identify on the device and then report back to you. So we're still out there pushing out or trying to allow you to upgrade different third-party applications overall. The need's not changing. Our enrollment, what we're trying to do on that, we want to make that workflow in a similar fashion as we do with iOS and Android. It's over-the-air enrollment where the individual, your administrator will actually push out a notification. The individual can actually now, even on a Windows 10 with a tablet, a Surface Pro 3, you can use a QR reader and start opening up the URL for the installation. Very simple to do. We wanted to have this simplicity of installation, just like iOS, and it can be done within, I think it was about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes on top of it. We're connecting. We're doing the MDM enrollment, installing what we call a company hub, and we're connecting to the Manage 360 service. You do not have to set up a company hub within your enterprise itself, but you can go in and you'll be able to see where that company hub is, and you can see it within the settings of Windows 10 overall. Did that go up? Okay.
Okay, so we're going to get set up for the demo, right? So Chuck's going to get ready with his portal, so we're going to show the Mass 360 demo. But we have just one more poll question. Again, this is similar to the one that we asked in May of last year. So again, it will be great to see what the difference is from that time to today. So based on what your organization knows today, when does it plan to upgrade to Windows 10? The first one is already upgraded or in progress, within 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, 18 months or longer, or we don't plan to upgrade to Windows 10 right now. So please put in your choice. We'll show you the results from the last one. So Chuck, what do you think we'll see with this audience especially?
Yeah,
because
I know
20% already have upgraded.
Exactly,
so, yeah.
and we know what the older numbers were.
Right.
I do think we're going to see more numbers or higher percentages going in the 6 to 12 month time frame, and I'm wrong.
Well, no,
I'm
this is
sorry.
from May. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more in the 6 to 12 month time frame. I think the 18 month will actually go down, obviously, because some time is past. Yeah. But that big jump, the 20% jump going into Windows 10 today, number one was surprising to me. But I think the adoption rate is there. The biggest thing on the adoption rate, and which will help people move, I think, is that start button.
Yeah.
It may not seem like a lot, but once you have the start button and people know how to navigate around a Windows 10 UI, people will accept it a lot easier.
Right.
They don't have to go from one screen, the touch screen, back over to the old legacy desktop screen, for lack of a better word or term. They have everything at their fingertips, and they can actually, they can use a mouse and they can use their finger to actually touch things.
Right.
And I think it'll be more generally acceptable. So okay, we just got some stuff back.
Okay, so it looks like, as we expected, about 18% or 20% have already upgraded or in progress. But I think you're right. So if you look back, just going back and forth between the two, we had 35% for 18 months or longer, and now it's definitely gone down a lot more, right? So it's 24% for 12 to 18, and for 18 months or longer, it's only 9%. So quite a bit has shifted. Obviously, it's been 6 months since the last poll.
Sure.
So I think more people are comfortable with Windows 10 today.
Absolutely.
And obviously over the holidays they probably got to play with it.
Well, even on top of that, I look at it. People may start thinking, "Oh, I can get it for free now," outside of your enterprise license. But Microsoft is, I think, so incented to move people to Windows 10. These enterprise license agreements, I'm sure there's going to be wiggle room and capitulation and discounting,
right,
to get you up to Win 10. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to be showing the Mass 360 portal, and it should be, it popped up right now. So
okay. Hopefully you're all familiar with the Mass 360 portal itself. I'm just going to go over a couple of real quick things. If we go into devices and inventory, we're able to show all the different devices in reporting into your portal for Mass 360. And I wanted to show you my Surface Pro 3 with Win 10 itself. You're able to, it looks very similar to what we have out there for iOS and Android. The layouts are the same. The data is presented in a very similar fashion, where we have the different hardware inventory, security information, network information, etc. We're able to show all the different pieces that are out here for security and compliance, network information, location information, apps, certificates installed. This is something that we had not shown previously, that we are now. And you're able to see all the different certificates on this device. You're able to also extract this information and download it to your desktop, laptop. Also, we have the actions on the same screen as the individual device. We can locate that individual device very quickly, and this is Mass 360's main office. You can do the selective wipe, a full wipe, and do a few things more like a change of policy or hide the device or request a data refresh itself. So you have all these things on a Windows phone, a Windows 10 tablet, and then we'll take a look at real quick on a Windows 10 phone that's out here. Very similar in nature to all the information that's out there. Hardware inventory, software inventory, certificates installed. And then we can do laptop, message these devices. Locate, message, buzz the device. I don't think you want me to buzz the device while I'm on. Okay. And a few things additional. Now, on the phone itself, we can do lock, reset, passcode, selective wipe. We're also going to be extending actions on the tablets themselves as they become available. Okay? But one of the good things overall is you're able to see all your devices in that one window. Now, granted, this is a little test portal that I have, and it's pretty much strictly Windows-centric. And we also have our older Win 7 devices. This is my laptop here. Very similar in nature in presentation. Right. Slightly different on actions because that's internal proprietary actions themselves, but the data is very similar too on top of it.
So basically, from one portal, one window, you can manage your legacy devices as well as the new Win 10
exactly.
devices.
So we just jumped over to the security policies or the policies themselves, and here we have my Windows 10 test policy. You're seeing it goes across all the different devices. You know, we're still making a few changes on the icons to make it straightforward, but you see the Windows, the tablet, the phone, and we'll just go back in here. We'll take a look at, say, the security information, and as I said before, your administrators really don't have to go out and open a book. They can take a look at the portal itself, and it's almost self-explanatory. Oh, can I do this? I can't do that on a Windows 10 device, but I can do it on a Windows phone. But I can do this one on a 10 device and a phone. Same down here on, for example, Phone 10 and Windows 10 to allow installation of non-Windows Store apps, basically side-loading applications themselves. On restrictions, very similar. Right over here, Cortana, and I keep on picking on Cortana, very Siri-like. You can allow or disallow Cortana on both phone and 10, so it's supported on both. Very easy to do. Active Sync, which we told you about a little bit earlier, a little bit different now. We could do it on the phone previously, but I think it's going to be a boon to have it on the tablets themselves, being able to configure and distribute a policy which sets you up for email right away, cuts down on your help desk calls, right. Can actually cut down on touches, and which will save you money.
Okay, so we're going to basically summarize the webinar. There's a couple more slides that we have, so please ask questions as you have along the way. Put it in the Q&A window, and we'll help answer those at the end. Right.
Thanks, Jimmy. The customer value overall, I think it simplifies the workflows. Greatly simplifies the workflows between laptops and phones. You know, the smart devices. I think the tablets for Windows 10 and even the laptops are becoming a smart device overall. And at some point in time, I know Verizon was thinking about putting a phone in a Windows 10 tablet. So we'll see what happens as time progresses there. Somebody's going to do it. We're supporting all the devices from a single window. You have actionable intelligence, on or off network. The upgrades and features that are available that'll be installed without user interaction, which we talked about a little bit earlier on OS upgrades and patch upgrades, keeps you up to date and more secure overall, and it's silent. We're trying to stay behind the scenes and not not mess up people's productivity overall. And Microsoft is doing the same, with the downloading of patches, etc. I think they've really learned a lot from other organizations, and they're assimilating that in their thought patterns.
Yeah, make it seamless.
Absolutely. Why should I care, or what's in it for me? The consistent unified workflow of the information, it's really easy and fast. It is fast to turn on. We can fire you up in no time with a portal itself, and we do all the heavy lifting. IBM Security through Manage 360 does all the heavy lifting on portal upgrades and API changes itself.
Okay, great. So again, a couple more slides. Just going to introduce you to Manage 360 if you're not familiar, but please, we're going to spend some time on questions. So please enter those into the Q&A window. So Manage 360 has basically a portfolio of offerings, right? Here's the 5 that we have. One is around advanced management of devices and apps, right? That's in the upper left-hand corner. Then we have Secure Productivity Suite. That's our container technology for emails, web browsing, and app security. Then the lower right-hand side, we have Secure Doc Sharing. Again, that's a container for content and files that you want to share with your users. At the very bottom is our gateway. Again, that provides access to back-end resources behind the firewall, so you can get access to intranet, to databases, to files. And then the one on the very left is Mobile Threat Management. That's pretty much our anti-malware solution for mobile devices for iOS and Android. Okay, so just talk quickly about integration, right? We integrate with iOS, Android, Windows, and BlackBerry, right? We have a platform that allows you to basically see a dashboard view of your environment, get alerts, and have automated compliance of your policies. So, and then on the very right, we have all the different systems that we integrate with. We talked about Active Sync with Exchange, Lotus Traveler, and all these different certificates that you may have to manage, as well as Office 365. So,
right.
So again, one system that allows you integration with your existing systems. And also, it really extends more than that, right? We actually have integrations with a lot of security systems around threat management, identity management, app security, right? The whole, security intelligence systems that you may have, SIEM systems, right? Also, unified endpoint management that we talked about, having, the ability to manage, both legacy, laptops and desktops, as well as, the mobile devices that, everyone has today. And then even app vulnerability and reputation, we can integrate with. So in terms of, why Manage 360, what makes us, different than others, right? We have a complete management of devices, apps, and content. Again, we talked about legacy, desktops and laptops. Not many others in the industry have that for enterprise mobility management. Scalability, right? We were born in the cloud, and we can scale up quickly from 10 devices to hundreds of thousands of devices, literally. So it's really simple to scale up with your organization and your strategy. And then integrated, right? We talked about all that integration that we have, and we're making it even more extensible in the future. So if you haven't, if you're not familiar with Manage 360 and you're not a customer yet, it's easy to get started. You just go onto our website, manage360.com. You get access to a full production trial of our software, right? You can really easily get started in minutes, as Chuck mentioned, whether it's Windows, iOS, or Android devices. And then you could start managing all your devices, apps, and content on that production environment. And when you switch from being a trial customer to a full customer, you don't lose any of that information. So there's no risk in trying that software really now, right? You can start right now. Okay, so thank you for attending the webinar. We're going to start answering questions. So please, if you have any questions, put it into the Q&A window. I think Chuck has looked at some of the questions. So Chuck, any questions you'd like to answer?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the one question about Manage 360 be available only with MDM version versus the containerized version going forward. Not necessarily. We're actually looking at what can be used And when I talked about the universal application, we do have the containerized version for Windows Phone 8.1. Our plan, and once again, all the caveats around planning, et cetera, we want to make sure, this is what we think, and there's no firm commitments at this point. But our plan is to actually take the container version off of Windows Phone 8.1 and migrate that over to the Windows 10. It works on, it's already been on the Windows Phone 10 or Windows 10 Mobile. We're looking at putting that over into the tablet itself. So you'll have that same type of a container that you'll be able to do email, calendar, contacts, documents, and intranet access at some point in time in the near future. There's two questions on kiosks. Kiosk is, we're in the process of making changes to all the API sets to allow it on the Windows 10 tablet itself. That's a little bit farther out in the roadmap. We haven't had a lot of demand on it, especially moving from phone to a tablet, but we are looking at that and placing that in the roadmap appropriately, and you will be able to lock down the different applications on top of that. Here's an interesting one. How many people actually migrated because of new hardware purchases? That's a pretty interesting question. I think it's a double-edged sword because IDC just came out on Monday and said PC shipments in Q4 actually dropped 10%, from the year before. So I'm beginning to think that people that have a device that can run Windows 7 outside of the touchscreen can actually run a Windows 8 device overall. So there is some new new hardware buys, especially for the tablet side, but I would think that a majority of the individuals doing this didn't go out and buy hardware, they just upgraded straight away. Let's see. No, we haven't seen anybody use Mobile Continuum yet. We've seen different features. We think, now granted, we're sending some people out to Microsoft in a few weeks, but we think we know what's going to be coming down the pike on Continuum, Mobile Continuum, and to me it looks like it's going to be a Windows 10 operating system more than the Windows 10 mobile operating system. You'll be able to actually do it'll be almost a full operating system. You'll be able to do Excel, Word, PowerPoint on these devices, be able to hook in or present the data up onto a screen, and then have a keyboard on top of it. So that's where you're going to have the continuum. The keyboard's always going to be the same, keyboard and mouse. You'll just have a different slot, and you put your phone in there. Right. And instead of your tablet or a laptop.
And the question was, how, have you seen customers using Windows Mobile Continuum feature at all? So thank you, Chuck.
Here's an interesting one. How to upgrade XP to Win 10. There's no direct upgrade. I didn't write the upgrade process, unfortunately. The upgrade itself, I think it's a two-step upgrade. You're going to have to go to 7 and then go to 10. There is a direct upgrade from 7 to 10, but not XP to 10. Fortunate or unfortunate, but I think Microsoft is saying, well, you should have been off of XP. So we're not going to go out and build all kinds of upgrade processes.
Right.
All right. All right. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, we'll probably answer a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. So thanks for holding on.
The first one right off the top: is it available for download on tablets or just PCs? It's available on all Windows 10, regardless of form factor itself. So tablets and PCs.
As well, phones is.
Phones is slightly different. If you have an insider preview on phone, you can also manage this on the phone.
Right. We'll answer one more. So.
Yeah, there's a question out there about why is IBM actually pushing Microsoft Windows? We're not specific to one versus the other. We want to actually service all our opportunities and service whatever you have, as opposed to going one versus the other. Right. So we're able to do Mac, or OS X, iOS, Android, Windows, etc. So we want to be able to present you a seamless or a consistent feature and function and workflow situation, regardless of the app or the operating system or platform that you're using.
Yeah, basically one platform for all these operating systems. So great. So thank you, and we'll turn it back over to Kayla to wrap up.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for joining today. I just wanted to remind you that we will be sending out an email that will provide you access to the recording and slides for today's event. That way you can review anything you missed or share it with others. So on behalf of our presenters and the rest of us here at IBM, we hope you enjoyed today's presentation and have a productive and secure rest of your day. Thanks again.